Well, hello again, everyone. We are back on the couch.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, welcome back.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Right where we supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, that's what some people will say. Girl, some people have said pineapples too far, too much, too soon.
That is true.
Too everything. Girl, one lady said, I am studying to be a MSW.
Okay.
And y'all will make a good case study, so I'm looking at it from a different perspective.
Oh, wow.
Baby. Chaun got a therapist and I got a therapist. Ain't nobody on the internet go unzip my head.
Right.
With all due respect.
I will continue to go to my therapist.
Yes, absolutely. But no matter how you have viewed this series thus far, I'm sure at some point, whether it was episode 1, girl, when we met, whether it was, girl, episode, whatever, when we got married, at some point, girl, somebody has had a question. Whether it was how we conceived the kids and our fertility journey, girl, somebody at some point has had a question. So I told Chaun, I said, well, girl, Myrtle, as I look back over all of the videos, the best friends have been very active in watching the videos, but they haven't commented.
Right, they haven't been saying a lot.
And I said, I think we confused the best friends when we said that, we weren't going to be reading comments. What we meant by that, y'all, was that we weren't going to be reading comments while we're live.
Allowed,
like we're live. Yeah. We read through the comments, and I'm reading through them now. We read through the comments. We're just not going to do them, as Chaun said, aloud, because there are some instances where it would take the conversation in a different direction. Does that make sense? However, we welcome you guys to comment. We want you to comment because even after the video, we can still click back through and respond to people's questions or, engage that way, so that's just something to consider.
And it's also, I think we mentioned it in the very first episode that we're doing it podcast style. So if we were to stop and read comments, it would, for some people that are listening to it on a different platform, it would probably confuse them. So that's the reason why we do it in that manner. However, you're still more than welcome to ask those questions while we are doing the episode, because we may actually see it. And if we can interweave it into the conversation where it flows and it makes sense, then we'll address it. And if not, then we'll just respond in the comment section.
Right. Yeah.
So, do you want me to do a little recap before we get into the questions?
You can.
Okay, so let me recap the last episode. And then this specifically is for questions. This is a Q&A. So if you guys have questions about any of the episodes that you have watched or anything for us at all, this is the time to ask, because we're going to interact with you in real time. All right. So just to give you guys a overview or a recap of the last episode, which was episode 16, I was telling you guys about the fact that we had started the business, we were moving along, the business was going well, but Candy is what I consider and what a lot of people consider a visionary. She is the leader of our household, and she is the one who basically puts a lot of plans into action. Okay. So with that being said, I told you guys how she said, you know what, we need to do something else in addition to the business, just in case the income starts to ebb and flow, because the pandemic revenue was not the normal revenue. So that's how she came to me and said, I think that we really should get into the stock market, put me in charge of that task because our minds are different. She's like, you're more of an analytical brain, so why don't you do it? So I gave you guys a story of how I did that, lost a boatload of money, and how it sent me into a very dark place and a point of, I won't say no return, because I returned by the grace of God, but how that spiraled and how it had a devastating effect on not only Candy, but our children, Candy's family, and just so on. It was a very large ripple effect that we took a very long time to recover from. So that was the last episode.
Right. So let me say this. It was interesting because yesterday I was busy and I wasn't available. So we would have either had to push that video to today, or Chaun would have had to, obviously, which is what she did, do it without me, right? It was interesting because when I thought about it, I said, nah, Myrtle, you go ahead and do that one without me. Because I just felt like, I was like, girl, she don't want to be triggered. And in addition to that, I honestly, even deeper than that, I didn't want to be sitting here and you're telling the story and I'm just kind of just sitting and my face is kind of going through all the different emotions that I felt as these things were happening. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes, especially with you, girl, everything be written all over your face. Girl, when Chaun is displeased with me, the kids, the cat or the dog, y'all know we ain't got no cat or dog.
Right.
The cat or the dog. Girl, when Chaun is displeased, everybody in the room looking at Chaun know it.
I try to camouflage it.
So look, so y'all, I was not gonna be sitting here on this couch with her. Girl, find somebody else to do it. But because I like to know what's going on too, girl, I want to keep up with the story too. Like I didn't live it.
Right.
So I had to, this morning when I had time, I had went down to the donut shop, got me a glazed donut, and I went to Starbucks, got me a refresher. And I'm sitting in the car this morning, I said, let me listen to the video. Girl, I was almost crying like I didn't know what was going to happen next. Deborah said, girl, I hope don't nobody cry tonight. No, we here answering questions.
We're just strictly here for you guys' questions so that we can answer any questions that you may have as you've been watching the series.
Yeah. I will ask you this, and maybe you have an idea, because, as it relates to our content, there's a lot of people who say that they enjoy it. And I think the beautiful part about it is we don't plan a whole lot of it. Right. Most of it we don't plan. Where do you think life will take us next with this?
As far as the series, are you talking about in real life, or what? Well, everything is real life, but you talking about as far as the series is concerned, or just like what's gonna happen next, like in the next episode?
Because I guess maybe let me ask it this way: at some point they're gonna be caught up.
Yeah,
because girl, we done went through. Well, we've been doing this for like 2 weeks. We done went through like 10 years plus. Yeah. No, we caught up.
Yeah, we're pretty much caught up. Like there's only a few more episodes left. Yeah. And then we're literally at current day.
Because August was a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So yeah, y'all just about done caught up with us in a matter of like 2 weeks.
So in that vein, I guess to say pretty much after the series is completed, you're in present day, and we just have to continue to live out loud as we have over the last almost 8 years that we've been on the internet. We started in 2017. Yeah. So you will just basically be able to continue to see how the story progresses, because the story does still progress. You just see it in real time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that's what it'll be. So when you see us on an everyday basis, you'll be able to say, oh, now I know what's happening next.
Right.
You'll be in it.
Thank you, King Lawrence. He said, I'm enjoying the book and the series. Thank you.
I'm glad that you're enjoying it, King.
Deborah said, well, start it over because I love it. Start the series over.
We wouldn't have to start it over because the series is available, so you just watch it.
Yeah, start the series over. I can't tell that story. Well, I guess it happened, but that'll be so boring to keep hearing how we met and
stuff. To keep hearing the same thing over and over again.
Girl, y'all will be bored to tears.
With that being said, best friends, please put your questions in the comment section, because we are going to address any questions that you have. And we want to make sure that when we get ready to do the next episode, everybody who has questions has their answers. And then also, if you are part of the replay community, because we have a strong replay community, please don't hesitate to put your questions too, because we will just answer those in the comment section. So just because you're not here with us presently, we still want to answer your questions as well.
Right.
Keisha said, ladies, I have really enjoyed the series. It's been like a movie. Love the honesty and transparency.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, best friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And I know I have seen comments on prior episodes where a lot of people, or not a lot of people, some people have said, one person was like, do you really think that you should be doing this? Because don't you think it's kind of opening up wounds again and things like that? I will say, when you are honest and transparent, that can happen. And there are times where sometimes a person can be triggered because of what has happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we still push through it and we still do it, because I think that it also opens up an environment for dialogue that either should have been had, needs to be had again, or just needs to be readdressed. So even though, and I think that's where a lot of people fall into problems when they keep trying to sweep things under the rug and they don't take the opportunity to really address things. And that's how nothing ever gets resolved. So even if you're like, oh, we talked about it already, so it should be okay, that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes there has to be multiple conversations about the same issue in order to be able to try to work through it.
Yeah, I know people who have experienced stuff and they sweep it under the rug, and it's we're not gonna revisit this type of thing, and everybody's relationship is different. But girl, if it was a pile of dirt on the floor and it was enough of it, just because I put it under this rug that's sitting over here, this black rug that's on the floor, just because I sweep it under that rug don't make that pile any less, and it don't make it disappear. And so I think a lot of times we find ourselves going through unnecessary stuff because we don't do what's needed to process it, work through it, and heal from it. Just because time has passed don't mean you heal from it.
Right.
Just because it don't come up in conversation, or there's an understanding that it don't come up in conversation, don't make you heal from it either. And so as parents and as people who came from two completely different backgrounds, one no better than the other, we have learned that whether we wanted to or not, we brought baggage, suitcases that was filled with other people's stuff based on how we grew up. Chaun seen stuff, I seen stuff, Chaun heard stuff, I heard stuff. We seen stuff good, bad, and everything in between. And whatever you see becomes your reality. That becomes your norm until you make the choice that just because I've seen it don't mean I got to repeat it, and so forth. And so I just think that we've experienced some things, and there were a few conversations that was hard. And I told Chaun, I said, I need a minute because, girl, revisiting this or that, was triggering. Now for me, and then this is true transparency, the one that I'm thinking of was the whole pregnancy. Me talking about her still talking to that girl while I was pregnant, because I could still, even 11 years ago, remember how sick I was. I still remember it like it was yesterday. And so, that was my big thing. Dominique said, Candy, are you still in therapy? Yes, baby. Yes, I am. I still am in therapy.
Tanisha said, Chaun, you told your side. I would like to hear Candy's side of the last episode, like how she felt during that time.
Well, I won't get into the details of what happened because Chaun gave you the details of what happened. I will say this. I know she said that we were homeschooling the kids. That's accurate. I received a text message from Chaun, and the message pretty much sounded very cryptic. It wasn't real detailed. I'm not going to get into the details of what was said, but it was very, what do you say, aloof?
Aloof.
It was very aloof. It was very much so like, this is it, blah, 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 blah. However, right?
The specific text is in the book.
Right. The specific text, word for word, is in the book, Moments of Resurrection, which is available on sincerityjohnson.com, just for those who want to know. So, I received a text message from Chaun, and usually her and I, we don't really keep tabs on each other, but if somebody's going to run to the store or go here, go there, whatever, just because, we just try to be mindful of who's where, usually we'll say something. So I heard the door close and lock, and I seen Chaun pull off in the car real fast out the window. And I'm like, girl, Chaun ain't said she was going nowhere. So that started the whole chain of events for me. And then there was a series of things that happened thereafter for 72 hours, as she described. There were only two emotions. I think part of what the best friend wanted to know was, how did I feel? But there was only two emotions: fear and anger. Fear and anger. When I stopped being afraid, anger kicked in. and there was nothing in between. Nothing in between. It was the fear of not knowing if she was going to be okay. It was the fear of not knowing what was going to happen next. It was the fear of not knowing what to tell the kids. It was fear. You see what I'm saying? It was fear of me not knowing how I was going to pay the mortgage. It was me not knowing, what was going to happen with the business. Like literally everything in a matter of seconds, just like that, changed. And the kids was trying to figure out what was going on because they didn't know. And my mom was getting off work, and I remember calling my mom saying, I need you to come over here. Don't go home, come here, because I need you to watch the kids, and I have a mess going on over here. I have an emergency, girl. And so by the time my mom got here, the police were here, like it was a whole thing, right? And from that moment over the next 72 hours or so, it was just fear. And then after that came the rage, the anger, the unanswered questions, the doubting everything that I was told, I can't trust you, and all of that. And so from that moment, how many years ago? 2, 3 years?
It has been almost 3 years now.
From that moment up until very recently has been a rebuilding process. Emotionally, mentally, financially was the biggest. And early on, it was so tough for us because, Chaun would, everybody knows Chaun cooks, right? I don't cook. I don't boil water. Chaun cooks. So it would be a situation like I remember one day we had ordered groceries, had the groceries delivered. And Chaun, I think, realized, I forgot to put thus and so on the grocery list. I need to run down the street to the store to get it for dinner. Girl, she grabbed them keys. Girl, the kids freaked out. Where are you going? What's going on? What's happening? Don't go, because they immediately had abandonment issues. So it became traumatic for them. So seeing like their experience, seeing Chaun's experience, reacting to their experience, her seeing my reaction, it was very difficult. And so it was the days of, I don't know how this is going to get paid. I don't know how that's going to get paid. And just thinking about all of the things that we sacrificed years ago that we told y'all, we sacrificed our wedding, our honeymoon. We sacrificed so many things to try to build our lives in such a way where we were generating good money, so that we could live our best life. Our goal was to be living our best life in our 40s and really retired by 50. And so just sitting in the reality of, girl, everything that we've worked for the past 20 years is gone like that. And we're starting over. But the beautiful thing about starting over, if there's a silver lining to all of this, is that when you have to rebuild a second time, you still have your knowledge and understanding of how to do it. Does that make sense? Chaun and I done built our credit, told the credit up, so us rebuilding the credit was like, girl, a kid riding a bike. You see what I'm saying? Because we did that. Like, we told y'all the story about how we first met, and Chaun, girl, took out the payday loan to pay my Sprint bill because we had just graduated from college. Girl, we was poor, broke, accounts overdrawn. We were kids, but because we learned all these life lessons together and along the way, it was very much so easy to draw from memory. Okay, girl, I know how to, girl, take your credit score from -0 to, like over 7 something. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you have the knowledge of, if I got to do it all over again, I know what to do. Now, you angry about having to do it all over again, but in reality, you know what to do. So it kind of sped the process up. God was good. I will also say we have a faithful, loyal group of amazing best friends that follow us. Mm-hmm. And if we haven't done it before, let me use this as an opportunity to say thank you. Because it's because you choose Sincerity Johnson. You've got many options, but it's because you choose Sincerity Johnson day after day after day. Because we're entrepreneurs, you pay the light bill. You know, you choosing to shop with us over everybody else, girl. You made sure the kids had a roof over their head, and you know, we had a car to drive in the driveway. So it's your support and choosing to shop with us and follow us and all of the things. But girl, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Deirdre said, why did you stay after everything that happened, Candy? Was it really love you had for Chaun, obligation to the family, or fear?
All three. Well, not necessarily fear. It was love and obligation. I grew up, not right or wrong, I grew up in a household where my parents, my mom and my biological father, didn't marry. They were engaged. They stayed together until I was about 4. And up until I was about 6 years old, almost 7, we lived with my grandparents. Mm-hmm. And my mom married my stepfather. And I seen him treat her horribly, but he thought he was doing something for us by treating me well. You can't treat the child well if you don't respect the mother. So I never wanted my family to be separated. I also see the benefit in us having a business. So you got to think, so on some of our worst days, I sat and I thought about it. I said, girl, we finna dismantle this whole thing. And it'll be easier. I said, because you got a master's degree, I got a master's degree, we can go get a 9 to 5 and call it even Steven. Mm-hmm. But then I started to think how that would impact the kids. That means no travel softball for Kennedy. Y'all know that's her life. Mm-hmm. That meant no music lessons and after school stuff for Caleb. That meant I don't know who's going to pick them up from school because they bus come at 2:30. If we working 9 to 5s, guess who's still at work? We both still at work. So, you know, there's so many different things that a person has to consider. So a lot of times people will sit back and say, especially people who don't have a similar situation, but they'll sit back and be like, girl, she crazy and she crazy. I'd have been done. Mm-hmm. But that might be somebody who don't have kids. So there's another perspective that you got to consider. And then also comes mommy guilt, right? I'm looking at it, and I told you guys a long time ago when we decided to have the kids, right? I'm looking at it from the perspective of, you know, I waited my whole life and I did it, quote unquote, like I was taught by the book. You know, we went to college, did that, got good jobs, started our careers, you know, got married, bought the house, then we had the kids. And I just thought everything was supposed to work out because I did it by the book. So when it didn't work out, as many days as I wanted to tell Chaun I was done, I kept looking at how that impacted the twins when she wasn't here. You know how they had to sacrifice. You know, there was, I mean, it's a lot. It would be holidays where, you know, Chaun got them on Thanksgiving, I got them on Christmas, you got them on Christmas Eve and this and that. And they were very unhappy. They were happy in the fact that at the time I was dating and they were in love. They was in love with who I was dating. But it was one of those situations where they were used to their parents being in the same spot and it not being an either or situation. And so Chaun and I just kept scratching our head, and I just kept looking at the situation, and I was frustrated and I was angry, and I'm like, you know, nobody gets married with the thought of getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. So I'm having to make very difficult decisions for all 4 of us, you know, and based on situations that I didn't always ask to be in. But fair or unfair, you have to make tough choices in life. You have to make tough choices, you know, and this don't have nothing to do with the series, but I told Chaun, I had some errands to run this morning. I told Chaun, I said, I'm going to run by the cemetery. And she texted me and said, are you okay? Is everything okay? I said, yeah. I just want to go see my grandfather because I realized, you know, he married my granny at 18, I think. That man made some tough choices. He stayed and they was together 50 something, almost 60 years up until he passed. And she was there when he took his last breath. And I'm like, he never left his family. Every time I go to my granny house, I'm like, we still as a family are reaping from the benefits of your labor and you making a decision that your legacy meant something to you as a man. You see what I'm saying? So those are the core values that I have. So I may not probably want to say this in front of her, but it's not a lot she could do to make me want to say I'm done completely. I might be done romantically, but I'm going to always have grace for Chaun in ways that even it's hard for me to fathom.
And I do want to clarify something, because the best friend who asked that question, I don't know if you've been rocking with us or you're just getting to know us through the series. So at this point of the series, we just talked about August and all of that, and you asked why did she stay. You have to also understand there's still more episodes to come, and then we're not together right now. So even though she's saying that she stayed, she's saying that she stayed as in we're still co-parenting and running the business together and, you know, rebuilding our friendship and things like that. So I also want to make sure that I clarify that, because if you're a new best friend and you've watched the series up to this point, you're still kind of in 2022 when we're in 2025. And there's still some additional episodes to come.
Yeah.
So you'll get another, you know, little bit of time. You got about another year to experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just want to clarify that.
LaTanya said this, my grandfather gave us the same thing. It matters. It matters, right? Like, you know, I remember my grandfather going to work and coming home and, you know, putting his check in my granny's hand. And so, like, a lot of people are like, girl, why would you trust Chaun? She told you she lost the money, and then you turn around and, you know, you gave her another chance. Like, that was a part of the story too. But you guys have to also remember, she had gone through classes, she had training and had developed a skill set that I didn't have. So for me to go into the system and try to course correct what she had messed up, I'm really operating at a disadvantage, because I had done the number one thing that people tell you don't do, put all your eggs in one basket. And a lot of people, especially people who are not in a relationship or kind of look at it and they just don't have that mindset, they will be like, girl, well, why would you put all your trust in another person? People did it for years. Like, that's what marriage and partnership and relationship is about. Girl, you know, Shell, you cook and I clean the kitchen. Like, it you know, it's partnership. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's different levels, but it's partnership. So, you know, it's one of those things where Chaun had a skill set, I had a skill set, and money had never been an issue for us. You know, y'all got to remember, even going back to the State Farm office, Chaun was my office manager. We were making darn good money. The same amount, if not maybe a little bit more. Chaun was writing big checks to, you know, the team, to, you know, marketing companies and, you know, all the utilities and all the bills and stuff at the office. She was handling and budgeting all of that stuff. So if I didn't have a reason to question that, why would I question this? It still don't make sense. But it's our reality.
Yeah. Lori said, if you're new here and haven't purchased their books, please get them. It's a must read. She said it's a must. They are a great read. Thank you, love.
Aww.
So yeah.
Deidre said, I've been here. I got the books.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
because I couldn't, and Deidre, I apologize. It's not that I don't remember, because I know that you were here for sure, but I just couldn't recall who had asked the question. So
yeah.
But I did want to clarify that, because I know Camille said she's a new best friend. So if she is just joining the community, she may not have known whether, you know, what our current status is. So.
And thank you to all the rich best friends with the stars, girl. We got stars in a month of Sunday.
Thank you.
Yes.
Camille, our books are on our website, sincerityjohnson.com. When you go to our website, just click the menu and go to the tab that says books, and then you'll see them there. There is a book bundle if you want to get both. That's the most economical way to do it, because then you'll get Moments of Redemption and Moments of Resurrection. But, you know, you have your options there, but you'll see them there.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely, best friends.
What other questions do you guys have, best friends? I hope this makes you guys feel better.
Yes.
Because we are interacting with you real time and taking the time to answer your questions, even though we try to do it, in the comment section, or we try to do it anyway. But let us know what other questions that you have.
Because even when we're filming the episodes live like this, there's sometimes people will say something and it'll jog me to mention it, during the conversation.
Absolutely, it does.
During the conversation. I was going to ask this question because I'm curious to know for the people watching live and our replay, best friends. Now, y'all know Chaun and I are not together anymore. But every time we post something, girl, whether we going out, girl, whether I don't know, whatever, people be like, oh my God, y'all should get back together. Y'all so cute, blah, blah. Now that y'all know more.
Right. Now that you've listened to the series.
now that you know more, do you still feel the same way? Tell the truth.
Exactly. And trust me, you won't hurt anybody's feelings one way or the other.
Do you still say we should be together, or girl, are you saying, girl, find somebody else?
Right. Get somebody else to do it.
Find somebody else to do it. My mama said, can I get books? I don't know, Mama. You make a special appearance in the first one, so I don't know. You can, if you want them, of course.
And you may not want to know us on certain levels.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Never mind.
You may not want to get to know us in that way. Deirdre said, "You ladies are the epitome of what love and strength looks like." Thank you. Jacqueline said, "Yes." Dominique said, "Wait till they get the books."
Right. Exactly, Dominique. Exactly. Yeah. But it's interesting to tell like the stories and give the background too. So that's been very, very fun.
Jeannie said, "Yes, I still believe that you all should get back together." Lori said, "I will always say you guys make a remarkable couple even through the good and the bad." Razzie said, "Y'all do make a great team though." Lisa said, "I know the whole story and I think y'all should be together. I love y'all." Auntie Dot said, "We love y'all and we feel the same way." Lena said, "I say yes because the love and affection is there, so I think you will find your way back."
Lord Jesus, girl, we done did everything but knock each other off. Girl, what is it gonna take for y'all to say, you know what, enough, girl, you go on a date now and you go on a date now, and y'all move out and just be done,
and
girl.
Find somebody
what else would it take, girl? I just want to know, girl, what else would it take? Because everything that could happen doesn't happen.
Right. Camille said, "Do you guys plan to match on these lives, and what's the significance of that?" Oh, you mean the color scheme? Just aesthetically, it looks better. Yeah. Because like we said, we have this in other areas as well. So just aesthetically.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Y'all know we so transparent. But I'll be sitting here with this pillow because my stomach still is I still got 2 or 3 of them. I usually look at what Chaun is wearing because I didn't have this shirt on earlier. I had on a Beyonce t-shirt.
Yeah.
So I look at what Chaun is wearing and then I go upstairs and just try to find something similar. Because like Chaun said, when we upload the video and put it, where videos go, I just try to make it look a certain kind of way, so. Yeah.
And if for those best friends that have been with us for over the years, you guys know we used to do that all the time. And so sometimes, and that's funny that you asked that, Camille, because when we were together, we did it. And so a lot of times when people started seeing us doing it again, it was like, aha, I know. And we're like, no, it's really not that. We just want to make sure it looks aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
That's it. So literally we be having on the same or something similar for like 30 or 40 minutes. And that's it.
And then no more.
And we ain't going nowhere looking like this. Looking like we going to Six Flags. We ain't doing this.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. Lori said, "I remember back in the day, you guys would coordinate your outfits and Candy would rock her hat." See? Yeah, see? So she just confirmed what I just said.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Dominique said, "Speaking of Beyonce, I'm coming to Chicago for the concert."
Girl, you going to the Cowboy Carter tour?
I can't get into it.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I can't do that album. That wasn't for me.
I would not go to a concert with that. I'm sorry. Now she brought some Dangerously in Love and some Love on Top and some, you know what I'm saying, some What's that song that I was just listening to before we did our showcase? If she did that type of thing, I'm with it. You can sprinkle 1 or 2 Cowboy Carters in there just as like an intermission, but not the whole thing.
Yeah, that's when I gotta go get my popcorn.
Yeah, right. So
and refill my cup.
But have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Auntie Dot said, because we know y'all were hasty in making decisions, so we know what could be.
Y'all know I didn't let no grass grow under my feet when it came to that divorce.
At all.
Girl, I was so tired. I just believe it. I am an Aries. And if you don't make a believe out of people, people will play in your face. And I just felt like Chaun was one of them. I said, girl, let me show you better than I could tell you.
I said, girl, you're serious.
Girl, I said, let me go.
Have paperwork.
I said, girl, let me go down to here to this courthouse and put this car in park and find out. Girl, let me go upstairs to, I don't know what floor it was, the 3rd floor, whatever floor it was, at the old courthouse. I said, girl, let me go over here and see.
There's lines requesting my signature. I'm like, this is serious.
Mm-hmm.
Deirdre said, do you think there will be another book? I don't think so. I don't think so. There's nothing to really write about, to be honest. I mean, for those that are with us on an everyday basis, you see what it is. So, yeah, I don't think so. We didn't even think that there would be a second book, but things happen, and I believe that book was given to me by God.
Yeah. I remember the day you called me and said it's time. It was early one Saturday morning, and I had got up to take Kennedy to softball practice. And I believe it was in the wintertime because they were practicing at the indoor facility. And I had like 2 hours just in between. And so you called and was like, I think it's time. And I was like, it's time for what? And you was like, I think it's time for me to tell my story. I'm ready to talk. And I was like, I'm like, people are judgy. And I told her,
are you sure?
I said, people are judgy. And I said, I'm very protective of you in that way. And, you know, I don't want them to see me different, see you different, see us different, you know, whatever. And I said, you know what? I can't come in between you and your healing. So what you need versus what I need might be different.
And she said, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to quarterback this thing. So we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
And I said, okay.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it was in writing that book that kind of catapulted everything to help us get out of the hole. And we didn't know it. We didn't go into it with that. We just, honestly, I was following Chaun's lead, which Chaun very rarely says, hey, this is what I want to do. So it was placed on Chaun's heart to really say, no, I'm ready to get this off my chest. Like, I've been going through therapy. I have been doing the work. I'm ready to just tell people what's been going on because everybody knows it's been something.
Yeah.
They just don't know what. And we were in a very bad spot, even like as our relationship was concerned. Because I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to walk around and exist in anger and resentment all the time. So we would only talk to each other when we needed to, when we had to. But you could hear a pin drop when we were around each other. And that's a horrible way to exist. You know? So we had a lot of work to do. We had a lot of work to do. Yeah. So, yeah.
Good question. Any other questions, best friends? This has been good. I like it a lot.
But yeah, I don't see us
doing another book,
needing or wanting to do another book.
Sometimes, and I think that people who write movies, this is where they mess up at all the time. They be like, okay, we got to make a number 1, 2, 3, 17, 18. No. Sometimes it's okay to just end it there, right? Sometimes it's just okay to stop. you know, you try to do something and make something because either it's a money grab or you just feel like whatever, or your audience. And I'm not saying you guys, because you guys are not an audience, you're our best friends. But I'm just speaking like when it comes to like movie producers and stuff like that. They're like, oh, my audience is asking for it, so I've got to do it. No, you don't have to.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes you just gotta let a thing be a thing.
And writing a book is very time consuming.
It
is very, very time consuming. Mm-hmm. Girl, if something good happened yesterday, I promise you I could sit here and tell you faster.
Right, much faster.
Then we could write the book.
Exactly. Because a book is at least 6 months to a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
And to do so would take us away from our personal lives, growing Sincerity Johnson. Mm-hmm. We would have to put something on pause in order to pick up another project, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that's it.
So, and then my goal, I'm not sure what yours is, but my goal for the future is for the next chapters of my life to be very, 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 very peaceful, mm-hmm. very, very, very happy, very, very, very quiet, mm-hmm. and very, very private.
Yes.
Very private. I told you guys a long time ago, you wouldn't know that there was somebody in my life until I got married. And so, after going through so much, Chaun and I had just gotten to a point where we like, girl, we have been high, we have been low. These roller coasters are too much. Mm-hmm. We just want life to do this. Mm-hmm. Girl, I am good with born.
I'm very good with steady.
I am very good with born.
Steady is good.
Girl, I am, I've been wanting to get somewhere and sit down. If I could get Chaun to get somewhere and sit down, then we'd be batting 100. Girl, I have been ready to get somewhere and sat down. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tanisha said, are the twins aware of the details of August? I have read both books. No.
Mm-mm.
No. Who asked us that question? We recently had somebody ask us a question and said, oh, a really very, very dear friend of ours recently asked us, well, what happens if the twins come across the books or your social media or something like that? What are you going to do then? And I said, well, that's a reality, right? They're not going to be 11 forever. They know we wrote books. There's nothing to stop them from reading them once they're grown or finding something on social media or what have you. So am I naive to think that they will never know about August? No. But if and when that time comes, I will have a conversation. If they have questions, I will answer their questions. So I am very aware of that because it was made public and it's not something that I can keep secret because it's public. Mm-hmm. So, but no, they don't know the details of August, nor did I think, I'm not going to speak for Candy, but nor did I think it was beneficial for them to know.
Mm-mm. They've been through enough. Mm-hmm. They've been through enough. When we all have children, the goal is to not be the reason that they have to go to therapy. Right?
Right.
But life is gone life. And we have created enough reasons for them to go to therapy. Mm-hmm. At some point when they come and they seek answers to the questions, we will give them what's appropriate for the question that they ask. Mm-hmm. We were the ones who told them, when they started putting two and two together, it wasn't no tooth fairy, it wasn't no Santa Claus. We told them, what a man's private do and what a woman's private do, all before age of understanding for most people.
Right.
We just don't sugarcoat stuff because then you go down a slippery slope where you become a liar. Mm-hmm. And we just answer questions as they come. And we give you, when it comes to Kennedy and Caleb, we give them what they can handle.
Age appropriate responses.
Yeah. And they tell us what they can handle based on how they frame the question. Mm-hmm. So they know something very traumatic happened. Mm-hmm. They know that they were at risk of not seeing Chaun again because they overheard some things when the police were here. If you want the details, you got to get the book. Mm-hmm. So there were certain things I couldn't shield them from. Because although they were in the house and I was on the porch, they were listening. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that part, that reality is what it is. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But good question. Good question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deanna said, this is so me. I'm this way with my children. Yeah, because the thing is, if you're not honest with your children and you don't give them the information that they need in an age appropriate way, all they're going to do is either go to their friends, Google, or social media and look for what they're trying to get the answers to. Mm-hmm. And then how creditable is that information? So I would much rather it come from me. Mm-hmm. And that way, if they have follow-up questions, they can get it. So
yeah. And then, you know, we operate, and this is probably because of what we did for a living before we left corporate America, but we operate from the vein of not knowing. I don't assume. I'm not that audacious to assume that I'm going to live to be 85. Today might be my last day with them. So I try to always, whether they ask me a serious question or a not so serious question, every chance I get, I'm trying to give them a little nugget. Mm-hmm. So that if something were to happen where I ain't see them again, they didn't see me again, they're going to be like, Mama said, mm-hmm. you know, this, that, and the third. It might be something silly like, Mama said, you know, always make sure your shoes clean.
Right.
Women look at your haircut and they look at your shoes. They look at, you know, your haircut, your teeth, and right down at your shoes. You know, I tell Caleb that kind of stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. So it'd be them little nuggets. Like, you know, he might grow up and be a grown man and be like, chuckling, like, my mama said, blah, 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 you know. Right. So, yeah. Yeah.
So, any other questions?
Y'all know Myrtle fighting sleep, girl.
I told Candy, I said, girl, we finna do this Q&A and hang out with the best friends, and I'm tapping out. All right, shower, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
Oh, thank you, Razzie. I appreciate you. She said, I'm just happy you still with us, Chaun. Love you, girl. Mm-hmm. That was God.
Yes.
But thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to take us out?
I can take us out. Well, best friends, we love you guys so much. Stay tuned for episode 17 because there is a little bit more to share. This train is still moving, and we will tell you when we get to the final destination. But until then, we love you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.